next. Let's turn to an auto industry analyst. Rebecca Lindland is Director of Strategic Review at IHS Automotive, and she joins us now from Boston. Rebecca, welcome back to Bottom Line. Always good to have you on.
Thanks so much for having me on, Mark.
Rebecca, we were talking during the commercial break. Wow, that's the only way to describe these numbers. What happened?
It's really great to see, and there's a couple of factors coming into play. There is a really strong level of pent-up demand because a lot of consumers were snowed in January, and February afforded us a little bit more opportunity to shop. The other thing, of course, is that last February, we had some historically low numbers for both GM and for Toyota because the recall was still going on all through February, so there were a lot of vehicles that were not on sale. So there's a combination of reasons why we're seeing such terrific year-over-year gains.
Rebecca, this seems to fly into the face of some of the economic numbers that we're seeing because although consumer spending is up, the jobless rate is still near 9%. A lot of people, they're still concerned and maybe a little bit skittish about making a purchase of that big-ticket item. What are the U.S. automakers doing to lure people back into the showrooms?
Well, we certainly are still concerned about the consumer, but the one good thing is that the jobless rate is stable, at least. So people that still have their jobs don't feel like they're going to lose them anymore. And of course, the manufacturers are starting to introduce some more incentive spending, very targeted measures, very specific vehicles, but they are starting to also be able to offer credit again, because for a long time people couldn't get loans. So we're seeing, again, a response to both the consumer and their issues, but also the availability of credit representing an improving economy.
Rebecca, are we going to see GM Ford and Chrysler now start to step up their marketing campaigns in anticipation of some stabilization in the economy?
I hope so, and of course we're also going to continue to see them touting their better fuel economy as gas prices are more and more of an issue. The other big difference between the gas spikes we saw in 2008 and what we're seeing now is that the availability of products in the market. Many more products get 25 miles per gallon and better. A couple years ago it was really only about less than 15% of all products got over 25. So we're seeing a lot more improvement in the traditional fuel-injected engine, just the good old transmissions, and no need for hybrids in this. So it's really been an interesting development in terms of fuel economy standards.
Rebecca, are we ever going to get back to 16 to 17 million units sold?
The IHS forecast is actually for 17.1 million units by 2015, and a lot of people say that seems really high, but when we look at the increase in demographics and we look at the improvement in the employment levels, we're easily able to reach those figures. Of course, that is very dependent upon the economy continuing on its current progressive path of improvement.
Rebecca, right before you came on, my colleague Suzanne O'Halloran was talking about these auto numbers, and she also pointed out that although the auto sales were on the rise in February, what could throw a wrench into this recovery is the high price of oil given the turmoil in the Middle East. Could that disrupt things significantly?
It certainly could, and consumers tend to change their buying behavior into smaller vehicles when we see spikes in changes in fuel prices. What's a little bit frustrating from an analysis standpoint is that there really isn't any need for the panic in the oil industry unless the unrest drifts into Saudi Arabia. Then we could see some problems. But there's plenty of inventory and there's plenty of available oil. The other thing for consumers to remember is that the current crop of cars gets better fuel economy than ever before. So they could even get a small crossover that's getting over 30 miles per gallon. So the options and availability of more fuel-efficient vehicles is better than ever.
Rebecca, in our last minute, I just want to get a little bit of historical context because you've been kind enough to come on the air here at Bloomberg for the last couple of years. We've talked a lot about what was going on in the auto industry when some went bankrupt, when some were taking money to try to get their I guess, cars back in gears, for lack of a better metaphor. Now it seems that Detroit has risen from the ashes. How do you explain this and how do you describe it? Because it's pretty fascinating.
It really is, and having been fortunate enough to follow all three, Ford, GM, and Chrysler, for the last number of years, I really have seen a progression of improvement in products, and this was even before 2008. I saw the first Chevy Volt information, and I think it was 2006. So there has been a really a very concentrated effort to improve their products even before bankruptcy, and that's why we're seeing great product now.
All right, Rebecca Lindland, IHS Automotive, joining us from Boston. Rebecca, it's always good to have you on. Thanks so much.